we introduce compassionate self-talk there. And that is something that, again, doesn't always come naturally to people. It's not something we've trained. We often have a very strong critical voice, attacking voice. The more trauma and difficulties we've had in the past, often the more adversarial and critical and aggressive that internal voice might be. For other people, it might be more, it's a motivational voice, but it's quite critical and it's quite, judgmental. It might remind us of old school teachers or parents or people in our life. And a lot of us have had that as the main motivating voice, and we've never trained another type of voice. So what we want to do is train compassionate self-talk. A way to do this is to have one statement that we practice a lot and we get very good at. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to generate that statement, start to work on it, and from there we're going to broaden out into developing a compassionate inner voice, a compassionate inner coach or guide that will support us going through the difficulties. So it's a way of talking to yourself in your head that's supportive. And everyone does this, right? Everyone does this self-coaching. You think about athletes, they'll often, they'll even do it out loud. They'll say, come on, and they'll use their own name to coach and motivate themselves or instruct themselves. It's highly used in all kinds of areas in life. And we just want to capitalize on it by using mindfulness to help us distance from the difficulty and then warm it up with compassion. Now, it's very different to positive thinking. Positive thinking often doesn't match reality, doesn't acknowledge that life is not always easy and not always positive. And positive self-talk around self-esteem in people with low self-esteem will actually often trigger more shame, is what the research shows. So we're feeling a lot of shame, and then we say, no, I'm a beautiful, successful person, and then we actually feel more pain because there's a mismatch in a judgment, and it triggers the critic more. Self-compassion is very different to this. It's acknowledging pain, so it's saying there is pain in life. Life is difficult. We all face suffering and struggle as a human, some of us even more, as we know in this group. Tragedy happens earlier, or we face traumas or difficulties, or we carry a history that makes us more likely to struggle with our minds. We carry genetic history or epigenetic history that makes us more likely to experience these things. And so, it can be harder to do this kind of self-talk. So I'm just going to give a few ideas on kind self-talk and a few options so that we can build up this statement, and then we'll sort of go from there. So very simply, if we want to just boil it down to the simplest idea, acknowledge pain, respond with kindness. So acknowledging pain is, this hurts, this is difficult, this is painful. Responding with kindness can be a reminder, remember to be kind, look after yourself, one step at a time, you'll get through this. More kind of motivating and helping us to accept and allow, and if we can't accept and allow, at least tolerate the difficulty and get through it. And then, kind response have different options. We'll go through those in a moment. So really think of it like that. Acknowledge pain, respond with kindness. Now I'm going to go through some other categories, and this will feel like a lot of categories. You don't need to remember all of them. Start to notice the ones that resonate, that you think, oh yeah, maybe I'll build my statement a little bit around that. I'll release a video on this so you'll be able to remember these categories and these ideas. So within the acknowledging bracket or category, we have empathy, which is understanding your own pain. It could be going, I see that you're anxious, I notice that I'm sad. It's really acknowledging the emotion that we're having and empathizing and understanding it. Then we have validation. Validation is, my emotion makes sense given my history, my context, where I am now. It's tough to be a human. It makes sense that we struggle with our thoughts and feelings, or my pain, or my life situation, or my relationships, or my trauma. With all of that, I get why I'm struggling with my emotions, so I validate it. And then normalizing or common humanity. So common humanity is recognizing connection. We all struggle with difficult thoughts and feelings, tricky brains. some of us more than others, but that everyone struggles with it. And the people who struggle intensely, there's a lot of people that struggle intensely. So I'm not alone with this. And so that common humanity and that normalizing that my experience makes sense. So that's the first few categories, under acknowledging empathy, validation, common humanity, or normalizing. Then we've got supportive and motivating. So within supportive, we can do acceptance prompts. So phrases that help me accept the pain. So I can handle this. I can get through this. I'm going to do my best here to accept this. This will pass. This will change. I can do this. So it's more supporting and motivating the acceptance process. And then the motivation is more turning towards the values and goals and life direction and compassion and motivation. So reminding yourself, okay, I'm going to be courageous here, or I'm going to connect to my value of, persistence or tolerance or, kindness. So you connect to values or goals. Okay, remember what my plan was today. Today I was going to go on a compassionate walk outdoors. So I'll remember what my goal is. So that's the motivation piece. It's sort of instructing and motivating you and reminding you to sort of stick to the plan. So yeah, we've got instruction and reminder there as well. Remember to be kind. Instruction, okay, Johnny, one step at a time, just get out of your bed, stand up, go have a glass of water, you can do this. So it can be more narrating and talking you through difficulty and reminding yourself what you need to do. And this is great with concentration. So I often refer to, police and frontline responders will use this kind of self-talk to help them concentrate and focus. So when they're driving and they're sleep deprived, they will say, okay, check mirrors, look ahead. So we can use self-talk instructionally in a kind way to help us get moving and activate if we're struggling with depression. Okay, and then finally we've got a couple more categories. So as I say, it might seem like a lot. You don't need to remember every category. Just see what's jumped out at you, which ones have resonated. So then we have compassionate self-correction. So correcting a behavior, if you're trying to change a habit, correcting it in a kind way. So going, okay, it makes sense. I turn to food when I'm struggling. So many people do. I'm not alone in that. And I'm going to try and eat healthy today, and I'm going to try and do the best to nurture my body. So compassionate self-correction has the understanding of the broader picture, the tricky brains for humans, our history, our context. It's not shaming, it's not critical, but it does motivate change. And then the final one is more nurturing. So this is appreciating, celebrating, savoring. So appreciating is appreciating your strengths when you are doing well. So, validating and appreciating, when I've done, one of my goals, one of my actions, well done. I managed to get out of bed and go for a walk. I did great there. Or appreciating your strength. Okay, I've done well to practice my skills this week, so I'm grateful for that strength. Or can be appreciated in the world outside as well, and savouring the world outside. So savouring, turning towards pleasant, enjoyable experiences and feeling it in the body. And finally, the celebrating piece, when we do achieve things, celebrating it in our mind, saying, okay, yeah, great, I've worked on that goal today, I've done my practice today, or I've done, I've managed to call someone today, well done, that's great, and a little mental pat on the back. So these are some categories, and I've been quite extensive there, because I think it can be useful to know the variation and the options. But don't try to cover all of it. Just zero in on one. Remember, acknowledge pain, respond with kindness. At the simplest, we've got acknowledging, we've got supporting, motivating, we've got nurturing, we've got correcting. So just note down now if any of those stood out to you, any of those feel like they would be useful. And then we're going to start to work up. After the break, we're going to work up our compassionate coping statement. So just note down anything that was useful there, any of those categories, and then we'll come back to it afterwards.